Usually if we were out on operation about 7 days, something like that, they would try to get a hot meal out there. And the military had they had these standard cases, which I guess a lot of the coolers today are copied from. But they send the hot cases out or the cold cases out aboard helicopters, and everybody come by, get their, and get a steak and something like that there. I mean, that was kind of popular. It was easy to do. Give a mail call, a little hot food, ready to go for another 3 or 4 days.
I can remember our base camp. We had a mama-san, it was an elderly lady that would, you could give her your clothes and she would wash them for her. And, some of the guys became friendly. Well, she invited a whole bunch of us over to her house. And she cooked dinner for us. I mean, it was amazing, Had no clue what I saw a lot of claws and feet in the pot. I had no...
Being in the field, there are no bathrooms in the field. There's no showers. There's no nothing. If it rained, you stood in the rain. If you saw a river, you jumped in the river. And you couldn't use soap, which seems odd, but if you use soap, they can actually smell the aroma from the soap. So we couldn't even do that.
If you take a 55-gallon drum, fill it about a third of the way with diesel fuel, find a piece of plywood and cut a hole in it and place that piece of plywood on top of the 55-gallon drum, you now have a toilet. It doesn't flush very well at all, but what you then do each morning, somebody gets the detail of carrying this drum to the end of the compound and taking out their Zippo and lighting up that diesel fuel.
I'd die for Spam over that fire and a hot chocolate, and to read for probably the 50th time a letter from home.
A new cook came on board to take over responsibility, and he looked at me and asked me if I wanted to learn how to bake. And I thought, let's see, learning how to bake or going back and cleaning toilets. I think I'll opt for the baking. To feed a crew dessert for the next day, I would have to make 17 pies. And I can remember, and of course, pies were one of probably the most favorite thing for those guys to eat. And so I probably made pies at least 2 or 3 times a week.
The living conditions in Vietnam were interesting. Actually, I was very lucky. This base camp had already been built. The latrines or outhouses had already been built. Showers are already built, so I didn't have to, I was like moving in. We had a cot, a canvas cot, which was no big deal. I had done that in Boy Scouts. I'd slept on a cot, so it didn't really bother me. But a lot of people who had never been in, camping or out in the woods had a tough time, especially the, people who came from the cities. It was a totally different ball of wax, if you will.
All right, we were based next to an artillery company, so we had a regular mess hall. And everybody likes to complain. It's just Army chow. It's usual fare, and food cooked for 250, 300 people has a different taste from what Mom was cooking at home. And then if we were out on convoys, we had C-rations that we could stop the convoy and we could eat those. Punch a little hole in it, wire it to the exhaust manifold of the truck if you wanted to heat it, and by the time we got to go where we were going, you had a little hot meal. But C-rations weren't that good. A lot of them were packed during the Korean War.
I became a connoisseur of C-rations. I actually gained weight in Vietnam. My mother would send me over stuff, and we would get Spam, and I would dock up all of these C-rats, and it became quite enjoyable. And everybody used to come around me to see what I was actually putting together and stuff like that.
We were very blessed to be part of an Air Force facility. The officers had a club, which we were not allowed to go in, but we had a very good NCO club where we can go to buy drinks and get food. Our food was absolutely phenomenal once you became used to having rice and iced tea frequently, but the food was just well prepared by people that waited on you with a smile.
Food was 24/7, which was, everybody had the different days. I mean, there were days where the guy who slept next to you didn't see him for months. He was on a different shift than you were. So the kitchens were always open and served plenty of food.
We had beds, if you can call it that. Our bed was a little tube with a piece of canvas lashed on it with a thin mattress laying on top of it. We stacked them 4 deep, so we made, every little space available. Certainly, if you were claustrophobic, that was not a very fun place to be because there were a lot of people in very, very small, tight quarters.